stop. Whatever you are doing right now, I need you to stop, and I need you to find something to sit on, because this is not the kind of message you take standing up. Sometime in the last few weeks you sat in a parked car or on the edge of your bed, completely still, staring at nothing, feeling something enormous moving toward your life that you could not name. Chosen one, you know exactly which moment I am talking about. You did not tell anyone about it, because how do you explain a weight that has not arrived yet? How do you describe the air pressure of a storm that no one else can see on the radar? You could not explain it, but your spirit registered it, and it has not let you rest since. So let me say plainly what this message carries. God is not whispering this season. He is issuing an instruction, and the instruction is strange, and it is simple, and he is not negotiating it. Sit down now, not because you are in trouble, not because you failed, but because what is about to hit your life is massive, and massive things are never handed to people who are still running. That is the entire reason this message found you tonight, and I need you to hear it seated. Before we go one step further, I am going to make you 3 promises, and I will keep every one of them before this message ends. You are going to understand the real mechanism behind why God forces his chosen ones to stop moving right before the largest arrivals of their lives. And once you see it, you will never read your stalled seasons the same way again. You are going to feel the exact moment when years of unanswered waiting get rewritten in front of you, not erased, rewritten. And you are going to walk away knowing precisely what to do in this seated season, because the difference between being crushed by a massive arrival and being established by one is decided before it lands. But first, something small, because you have been promised things before and you are tired of promises. Let me hand you one piece right now. You know that bracing feeling you get when the phone rings? That half second where your whole body prepares for bad news before you even look at the screen. You have been calling that anxiety. You have been calling it pessimism, maybe even a lack of faith, and you have quietly judged yourself for it. It is neither. A season of long delay trains the body to interpret every incoming thing as a threat, the way a town that has only ever known floods hears rain and reaches for sandbags. That response is not brokenness. It is evidence of how long you have been holding a position. There is a fuller name for what happened inside you, and there is a way it gets reversed, and both are coming later in this message. For now, just know this: the flinch is not who you are. It is what the waiting did, and it can be undone. If your chest recognized itself in that, I want you to do something that matters more than it looks. The first act of receiving is agreement, and agreement has to be spoken somewhere. Type the words "I am seated" in the comments right now. Not as a phrase, but as a position. Heaven reads posture before it reads requests, and tonight, that comment is your posture. Now let me show you what this season has actually looked like from the inside, because I believe you have been living signs you never connected to each other. Picture a night from your own recent life. The house has gone quiet. The refrigerator hums somewhere behind you. You are at the kitchen table long after everyone else has surrendered to sleep. One lamp on, your hands around a cup that went cold an hour ago, and you feel it again. That sense of standing in a doorway you cannot see, of being on the edge of something with real weight. Your body is tired but strangely alert, the way animals are alert before weather changes. That scene is not random. That scene is the first sign. Here is the second. Your plans keep collapsing for reasons that make no earthly sense. The project stalls a week before it should close. The person goes silent right when momentum was building. Doors do not just close, they freeze, as if the whole board was put on pause by a hand you cannot argue with. You have been reading that as rejection. Hold that thought, because we are about to put it on trial. Third, you are waking in the deep hours of the night, somewhere around 3 in the morning, with no noise and no reason, instantly and completely awake. Fourth, desires that used to drive you have gone quiet. Ambitions that once burned now feel oddly distant, and it frightens you a little, because you wonder if you are losing yourself. You are not. Something is being cleared off the table before something heavier is set down on it. And fifth, interference has spiked on every front at once. Sleep, money, family tension, old temptations calling from numbers you deleted. All of it at the same time, right now. Remember that one. It matters later. If you counted 3 or more of those in your own life, you are not eavesdropping on a message meant for someone else. And the fact that you are still here, minutes in, while most people scrolled away in the first 30 seconds, tells me the same thing your sleepless nights have been telling you. Something in you already knew. So now let us open the first door, because I promised you a mechanism, not a mood. Let me name the symptom with full precision. Every time your life approaches a genuine shift, you get benched. Not gently slowed, benched. The opportunities thin out. Your energy drains in the exact areas where you used to be strongest. You can scroll a screen for 3 hours without effort, but the moment you sit down to work on the thing you believe you were made for, a fog rolls in and your focus dissolves like sugar in water. And the harder you push against the bench, the heavier it gets. You have explanations for this. You tell yourself you are lazy. You tell yourself you are undisciplined, self-sabotaging, maybe cursed, maybe forgotten. Some of you have carried the quiet suspicion that God set you aside years ago and simply never told you. I need you to hear what I am about to say with your whole chest. Every one of those explanations is false, and tonight they lose their lease. Here is what is actually happening, and it is the first mechanism of this message. There is a pattern that runs through every account of massive arrival, in scripture and in life, and almost nobody teaches it. Before magnitude lands, the instruction is always postural, always. The vessel is made still before it is made full, and there is a reason that is not mystical decoration, it is structural. A body in striving mode and a body in receiving mode are running 2 different operating systems, and they cannot run at the same time. When you are grinding, bracing, forcing, your entire inner system is configured for output, for defense, for survival. Nothing deep can be poured into a system configured that way. It splashes off. The stillness is not the delay. The stillness is the preparation of the container. We call this the seated position. The seated position is what it looks like when God switches a chosen vessel from output mode to intake mode against its own will, because the vessel would never have chosen to stop on its own. Now watch what this does to your history, because this is the part that rewrites years. Run your memory backward across every stalled season, every benching, every stretch where doors froze, and your strength mysteriously left the exact rooms where you needed it. You called those seasons abandonment. Look again. Every single one of them sat you down right before something in you was enlarged. You were not benched. You were seated. You were not set aside. You were set apart. The years you grieved as wasted were the years the container was being widened, and a wider container was the only way the massive thing would ever fit. Breathe that in. You were never forgotten. You were being prepared in the only posture preparation works in. And before we go further, let me hand you the key that goes with this, because a mechanism without a key is just information. Tonight, before you sleep, I want you to sit for 5 unarmored minutes. No phone, no music, no petition list. Spine settled, hands open on your knees, and say out loud, slowly, I am not waiting, I am receiving. 5 minutes. That small act begins retraining the system that delay miscalibrated, and it tells heaven, in the language heaven actually reads, that the seat is occupied. It sounds too small to matter. So does a seed. Something just landed for some of you. I can feel it from here. That understanding you just received, that the bench was a seat, and the delay was preparation. That is worth marking in the record. Type "I take my seat below." Because there is a difference between hearing a truth and taking a position inside it. And the ones who take positions are the ones this message was rooted to. There is a man in scripture who models this so precisely that once you see it, you cannot unsee it. David had just received the single largest promise of his entire life. The prophet Nathan stood in front of him and unrolled a future so enormous it covered generations, a house, a throne, a lineage that would not end. Now ask yourself what a man does after hearing something that size. Run, build, celebrate, mobilize an army. Here is what the record says he did. He went in and he sat before the Lord. That is the entire response, the biggest promise of his life, and his answer was a chair. And the original language buries treasure here. The Hebrew word used for what David did is yashab. It means to sit, yes. But the same word also means to dwell, to remain, and in certain forms, to be enthroned. Read that again slowly. In the language this was first written in, sitting down before God and being enthroned are carried by the same word. When God tells you to sit down now, He is not pulling you out of the action. In the deepest grammar of Scripture, He is seating you the way kings are seated. The posture you have been ashamed of is the posture of coronation. Let me paint the scene the way it deserves, because Scripture gives us the room. It is night in Jerusalem. The tent that houses the ark glows faintly with lamplight. Outside, the city that will one day bear His name is asleep. A king who spent his whole life moving, running from lions, running from Saul, running toward giants, pushes back the flap, walks in, and lowers himself to the ground. His knees find the floor. His shoulders, for the first time in years, come down from around his ears, and in that posture, he begins to speak, not with strategy, but with wonder. Who am I, that you have brought me this far? Notice what the seat did to his voice. Standing men negotiate, seated men marvel. The moment David sat, the promise stopped being a project he had to manage and became a gift he got to witness. That is the shift the seated position produces, and it is the exact shift the massive thing approaching your life is waiting for. Now let me be honest with you about something, because this message will not pretend to know more than it knows. I cannot tell you the calendar date of your arrival, and I will not insult you by inventing one. No honest messenger can. What I can tell you is the pattern, because the pattern does not change. Stillness precedes magnitude, the seat precedes the throne, and a chosen one who learns to sit well is never left sitting forever. One more thing before we open the next door, because I do not want you to confuse the seat with surrendering your standards. Sitting down is not giving up. A man who quits has left the table. A man who is seated is at the table, present, attentive, holding his assignment with open hands instead of clenched ones. Quitting closes the account, sitting funds it. Keep that distinction close, because the enemy of your season will try to blur it, and in a few minutes you are going to see exactly why he works so hard to keep chosen people standing, striving, and exhausted right before their largest arrivals. Now, while that is settling over you, I want to reach forward and open a door we will walk through later, because what is on the other side of it belongs in this message. If what you are receiving right now is stirring something, type "I receive" seated below, because the register of this moment is reception. And then, hear this carefully. Over the past several years, in research settings far from any church, a small team of scientists in New York uncovered something about the way the human mind was originally designed, something that explains a feeling spiritually sensitive people have carried for decades without ever being able to name it. It did not come from the direction anyone was watching. It is so foundational that its roots reach back to one of the most honored discoveries of the last century, and so simple in practice that most people dismiss it the first time they hear it. I am going to tell you exactly what they found before this message ends. Until then, hold one question in your hands. What if the distance you have felt from the massive thing was never about timing at all? What if something in the receiver itself was quietly taken from you years before you were old enough to protect it? Hold that question exactly where it is. Do not put it down, because everything between here and the answer is going to make the answer land with its full weight. Right now, I need to take you into the second mechanism of this message, and I will warn you in advance. This one touches the sorest place in your story. It touches the list. You know the list. Every chosen one has one. The prayers that never came back. The door that closed in the final hour. The business that almost worked. The relationship that dissolved right when it was becoming real. The promotion that went to someone with half your integrity and a quarter of your effort. You have watched other people receive quickly, easily, almost carelessly, while your own harvest stayed frozen somewhere upstream. And, late at night, the list whispers its conclusion to you. Rejected, passed over, too late. Let me name the symptom precisely, because precision is where freedom starts. It is not just that things have been slow, it is that your life has felt damned. You can sense the current, you can even hear it sometimes, but nothing reaches you. Effort goes upstream and does not come back down. And you have explained this to yourself the only way a wounded mind can. You decided the flow was refused. Some of you decided you were the reason it was refused. Before I hand you the mechanism, look at how this has actually played out in your days, because the dam does not announce itself, it disguises itself. It looks like sending out applications into silence. It looks like praying with real faith on Monday and hearing nothing by Friday. It looks like watching a person with no burden and no calling stroll into the exact opportunity you fasted for. And each time, the water level inside you rose a little, and you mistook the pressure for madness. That pressure was never madness. Remember the pressure. We are about to give it a name. That explanation ends tonight. Delay and denial are two different rivers, and you have been reading one as the other for years. Here is the mechanism. When a request is denied, it disappears. But when a request is delayed, it does not evaporate. It accumulates. Everything held back in a chosen season is held back behind something, and what stands behind a dam does not shrink while it waits. It rises. Seed that stays in the ground through a long winter is not dead seed, it is scheduled seed. The discipline you built through years of unrewarded effort, the depth you gained in rooms nobody applauded, the endurance that formed in you while the answer tarried, all of it has been compounding in a place you could not see. We call this the full reservoir. Nothing you sowed in faith was lost. It was stored. And storage under pressure is exactly how ordinary water becomes power. Now take the mechanism and walk it backward through your own record, because this is where the years get rewritten. That closed door in the final hour did not delete what you built walking toward it. That business that almost worked deposited instincts in you that no course could have taught. Even the love that dissolved taught your heart a depth of loyalty that is waiting for a person who can match it. The list you have been reading as evidence of rejection is actually the inventory of the reservoir. Same list, different heading, and a massive arrival is precisely what it looks like when a full reservoir is finally given a gate. And understand what the pressure you have felt actually was, because this changes how you carry it from tonight onward. The heaviness of these last months was not the weight of absence, it was the weight of nearness. An empty reservoir is silent. A full one groans against the gate. The very intensity that made you think you were breaking is the strongest evidence that something enormous is stacked up on the other side of a wall that is scheduled to open. You were never carrying nothing. You were carrying everything, undelivered. So here is your key for this mechanism. and I want you to actually do it, not just nod at it. This week, take the list out of the dark. Write down every delayed thing, every still waiting item, physically on paper. Then cross out the old heading your pain gave it and write the new one in the reservoir. That is not positive thinking. That is relabeling the file with what the mechanism actually says about it, and the mind cannot release what it has never correctly named. Some of you need to mark this moment, because something you have carried for years just shifted its weight. If you are letting the old heading go tonight, type "I release the timeline" in the comments. Release is the register of this hour. You are not releasing the promise. You are releasing the stopwatch you were strangling it with. Let me slow the pace here for a moment, because we have covered serious ground, and a message this heavy needs a place to breathe. Feel your own body for a few seconds. Notice where you have been clenching while you listened. The jaw, the shoulders, the hands. Let them come down. You are allowed to hear the rest of this at rest. The God who seats his chosen ones does not require them to flinch while he speaks. In fact, do this with me right now, because your body has been part of this waiting, and it deserves to be part of this receiving. Feel the surface underneath you, the chair, the seat, the floor, actually holding your weight without your help. Notice that you are not holding yourself up. Something beneath you is doing it. Let that be a picture your body memorizes tonight. Being held is not a theory for you anymore. It is happening physically at this exact moment, and the same is true in the realm you cannot see. I will tell you something small and true while we breathe. Years ago, I watched a farmer wait out the wettest spring anyone could remember. His neighbors panicked and planted early, and the frost took nearly everything they put down. He sat, checked his soil, sharpened his tools, and planted 3 weeks after everyone else. That autumn, his fields carried the only full harvest in the valley. I asked him how he stayed calm while his neighbors were sowing. He said something I never forgot. The land was not asking me to hurry, it was asking me to be ready. If this message has been feeding you, this is a good moment to quietly join this family of chosen ones, walking the same road, thousands of them, seated in their own seasons, all over the world. And now, back to the road, because the next mechanism is the one almost nobody has the courage to preach. Here is the symptom, and I am going to say the quiet part out loud. Somewhere underneath your prayers for the breakthrough, there is a fear of the breakthrough. You have imagined getting the massive thing and then losing it. You have wondered, in the honest hours, whether you could actually carry the answer if it came, whether the money would expose you, whether the platform would swallow you, whether the love would find you insufficient. And because that fear felt like unbelief, you buried it and doubled your shouting. Stop calling that fear a lack of faith. It is not. It is an accurate instinct pointed at a real law. And instead of shaming it, we are going to read what it was trying to tell you. Think about how many stories you already know that prove it. The names pulled from obscurity into sudden fortune, who were bankrupt again within a few years, not because the money was cursed, but because the money was bigger than the container it landed in. The overnight voices who rose on one wave and were dismantled by the next, not because the platform was evil, but because the roots were younger than the branches. Now set those beside the quieter stories. The steward who managed a small thing faithfully for a decade and then scaled to a great thing without losing his soul. The woman who healed in hiddenness first and therefore could hold a public blessing without it reopening private wounds. Here is the law. The same arrival that establishes one person crushes another, and the difference is never in the arrival. It is in the architecture of the one receiving it. Sudden wealth has buried people whose names you know, and funded generations for people whose names you will never hear. Sudden platforms have destroyed voices that were not yet rooted, and amplified voices that were. The rain is neutral. The outcome is decided by what was built before the rain. We call this the impact paradox. Magnitude does not bless or break anyone. It reveals the structure it lands on. Your instinct was not doubting God. It was telling you the structure needed work before the weight arrived. That is not fear talking. That is engineering. And now read your delay through that paradox one more time, because this is the deepest rewrite of the night. God was never dangling the massive thing to torment you. He was refusing to let it land on a structure it would have flattened. The withholding was not punishment. It was load management by a father who intends for you to still be standing 10 years after the arrival, not just photogenic on the day of it. Every month of delay was him choosing your survival over your applause. And notice something that should comfort you deeply. Every one of those preparations is available to you right now, tonight, in the middle of the delay you have been despising. You do not need the arrival to begin building the structure the arrival requires. That means the season you call dead time is actually the only construction window you will ever get, because once the massive thing lands, the time for building under it is gone. Heaven is not wasting your years. Heaven is using the only years in which the foundation could still be poured quietly, without the weight already pressing down on wet concrete. So the seated season has a job description after all, and here it is in 3 lines. Order the inner rooms, because whatever is unhealed in you gets amplified by altitude. Strengthen the daily rhythm, because massive weight rests on boring habits, sleep, prayer, focus, finances, kept promises, and guard the intake, because whatever has your attention in this season is training the structure the arrival will land on. Small hinges, massive doors. Let me add one honest line here, and it is the kind of honesty you deserve from any voice you allow into your spirit. I do not know every detail of your situation, and I will not pretend that a single message can map a whole life. If something in this word does not fit your story, lay it down without guilt. But if it fits, if it has been fitting for the better part of an hour now, then do not dismiss that as coincidence either. Messages like this tend to find the people they were assembled for. You have been listening for a long stretch now, and that is not casual curiosity. People do not sit this long inside a message unless it is reading their mail. So let me read one more page of it. There is a man in scripture whose entire life is the impact paradox played out to the letter. Joseph, a boy handed a massive vision at 17, dreams of sheaves and stars bowing down, and then, instead of a throne, a pit. Instead of a palace, a slave, posting. Instead of vindication, a prison cell for a crime he refused to commit. Year after year in the dark, holding a promise that looked deader every morning. Sit inside that timeline with him for a moment, because summaries are painless and his years were not. Feel the first morning in the pit, the shock of brothers becoming strangers. Feel the caravan dust, the auction block, the new language he had to learn to survive. Then the slow, absurd faithfulness in the house of Potiphar, doing excellent work for a man who owned him. Then the accusation he did not earn, the cell door, the sound of it, and inside all of it, one question that never fully slept. What about the dreams? He had seen sheaves bow. He was staring at a stone wall. If anyone in history had the right to call his vision a delusion, it was this man in that room in year 11. But notice what the record quietly shows. In the pit, he kept his integrity. In the house, he kept building skill. In the prison, he kept serving, interpreting, stewarding other people through their nights, while his own night went on. The reservoir was filling in the one place nobody would ever have chosen as a filling station. And then one day, with no warning at all, guards came running down the corridor with a razor and clean clothes, because Pharaoh was asking for him by name. What happened in the next few hours is the entire reason this story is in your message tonight, but I need you to hear it on the other side of one more door. because without that door, you will hear the miracle and miss the mechanism. First, stand at the halfway mark of this message with me, because you have earned a summit view. Everything so far has answered why. Why the bench? Why the delay? Why the fear? But you may have noticed, there is a question I have been circling and have not touched. What exactly is the massive thing? You have assumed it is the money, the person, the platform, the vindication. What if I told you that the largest thing scheduled to hit your life is not any of the things on your list, and that when you see what it actually is, the list itself will look small? That is where we are going next. The biggest piece of this message is still ahead of you. Stay seated. So, what happened in those few hours? A prisoner heard a dream, read its mechanism, and proposed a plan, and by sundown, the man who woke up in a cell was wearing the ring of Egypt. Everyone calls that day the miracle. It was not. The miracle was the 13 years before it. Pharaoh did not need a dreamer that morning. Egypt was full of dreamers. Pharaoh needed a man already built to carry a nation through famine. And there was exactly one on the continent. And God knew his cell number. The elevation took hours because the preparation took years. That is the impact paradox with a face on it. The massive thing did not crush Joseph because by the time it hit him, he was the kind of structure it could land on. Now I have to talk to you about what is happening around you right now in these exact weeks, because we have arrived at the sign I told you to remember. Everything is under attack at once. Your sleep is strange. Money is leaking from places that were stable for years. Old conflicts are reigniting out of nowhere. People you deleted are resurfacing with familiar poison. Your own thoughts have turned on you at 2 in the morning, and because it is all happening together, you concluded that you did something wrong, that God is displeased, or that your luck has simply always been broken and always will be. Look at the pattern instead of the pain for one moment. Random misfortune scatters across a lifetime. This is not scattered, this is concentrated, timed, and aimed, and it arrived in a cluster at the exact season a divine instruction went out over your life. Random does not do that. Opposition does. Here is the mechanism, and it holds in both the seen and the unseen. Resistance always concentrates at thresholds. Ask anyone who has ever changed their life at the root. The strongest pull of the old thing came in the final days before the new thing. Ask anyone who nearly quit. They will tell you the collapse was scheduled for the week before the breakthrough, almost to the day. Psychologists watch it in behavior. The closer a person gets to genuine transformation, the louder the inner sabotage becomes, because the old identity fights hardest at the exit. And the spiritual reading agrees from the other side. Nothing draws interference like an arrival in motion. The enemy of your calling does not waste ammunition on parked vehicles. We call this the pre-arrival storm. The chaos you are in is not evidence that the promise failed. It is evidence of how close it is. And this is precisely why the command over your life right now is sit down and not fight harder. A standing target is easy to hit. A striving, scattered, self-promoting chosen one in the final stretch is exposed on every side. But a seated one is low, guarded, unhurried, impossible to bait. So in this hour, guard your rest like a border. Stop announcing your plans to people who have never carried your kind of weight. Let the storm spend itself on the shutters while you sit inside the instruction. Storms pass, seats hold. Now we come to the last mechanism before everything converges, and I have saved it for this position on purpose, because it is the heaviest one, and it answers the question underneath every other question in this message. Come close, because this is the one you will carry out of here. Here is the symptom, and it may hurt to hear it said out loud. Even when good things do reach you, they land shallow. You get the answered prayer and feel almost nothing by dinner. You stand in moments you begged for, and some glass wall keeps you from actually touching them. Compliments slide off. Rest does not restore you. You read the sacred page, and the words stay flat on the paper. And, beyond the numbness, think of how much has simply gone unnoticed. How many open doors did you walk past in the fog? How many divine appointments sat next to you while your mind was somewhere else entirely, chewing on worries it had already chewed 1,000 times? You have been explaining that numbness as ingratitude and that blindness as fate. Neither is true. Hear the actual law. The depth of any arrival is set by the condition of the receiver it lands in, not by the size of the gift, by the state of the instrument receiving it. A masterpiece played through a damaged speaker arrives damaged, and the composer is not to blame. We call this the receiver law, and the receiver in question is the one instrument you have used for every prayer, every hope, every plan you have ever had, your mind. Now think back with me, all the way back. There was a version of you, small, maybe 7 years old, who received the world at full depth. Colors were loud. An ordinary creek was an empire. Time moved slow and thick, and wonder was your default setting, not your vacation. That child learned faster, imagined wider, and felt the presence of the sacred without effort. You did not lose that receiver because you aged. Something in the way modern life is built wore it down, dimmed it, layer by layer, year by year, until receiving at full depth became a memory you stopped trusting. And here is the rewrite this law makes possible. All those blessings you thought were withheld from you, some of them arrived. They arrived into a dimmed receiver, and they registered at a fraction of their weight, and some passed entirely unrecognized. You were never as forgotten as you felt. You were under-equipped to feel it. Stay with that child for one more breath, because this is personal, not theoretical. Somewhere in your house, or in a box at the home of a relative, there is a photograph of that 7-year-old. Find it this week. Look at the eyes. That is not a stranger, and that is not a dead version of you. That is the original receiver, the one calibrated to catch what heaven sends, at the weight heaven sends it. Everything in this message has been pointing at a single reunion, and it is not between you and an event. It is between you and that instrument. Which brings us to the question I asked you to hold near the beginning of this message. I told you a discovery had been made about the way the human mind was originally designed, and I asked, what if something in the receiver was taken from you before you were old enough to protect it? You have now heard the entire shape of the problem that discovery answers, and a solution only matters to a person who understands the shape of the problem it solves. You understand the shape now, so it is time. But first, one honest question, because you may be feeling it already. Why does knowing all of this still not produce the change? You now understand the seat, the reservoir, the paradox, the storm, the receiver. Understanding is real. Yet insight alone has never once carried a person across, and somewhere inside, you already know that. The missing piece is not in what you know. It is in the instrument that has to hold what you know. That is where we are going right now. Let me put everything in plain words for 90 seconds. No imagery, no metaphor, just the truth stacked in order. Here is what you now know that you did not know an hour ago. The forced stillness in your life is not abandonment, it is positioning, because massive arrivals require a receiving posture. The delay did not delete your harvest, it accumulated it. The size of what lands is limited not by heaven but by the structure and the receiver it lands on. And the chaos around you is timed interference, which means it is a signal of proximity, not of failure. Here is what you do with that. You sit 5 unarmored minutes daily and retrain your system to receive. You relabel your waiting list as a reservoir inventory. You build structure now, rhythm, order, intake, because this season is the construction window, and you treat your mind as the receiver everything else depends on. Here is who that makes you. Not a beggar outside the gate, a prepared heir, seated on purpose in the final stretch before a scheduled arrival. That is the whole message in one breath. If that clarity settles something in you, mark it now. Type "I claim the arrival" in the comments, because claiming is the register of this moment, and heaven honors what a chosen one is willing to put a name on. That fogged, striving, braced version of you is who you have been. It is not who you are required to remain. The clarity you now hold is real, but clarity alone is not restoration. So the only question left is the receiver itself. A few years ago, in a research setting in New York, something was confirmed that most people in spiritual rooms have never been told about. A neurologist there, Dr. Daniel Barone, had spent years inside a body of research that traces back to one of the most honored discoveries in modern science, work on the two hemispheres of the human brain that earned Dr. Roger Sperry the Nobel Prize in 1981. What that research line established is simple to say and enormous to grasp. The mind was engineered as two halves designed to fire in synchronization, and when they do, the state that emerges is what the deepest thinkers and creators in history have lived from. Full presence, effortless focus, ideas arriving whole. And here is the finding that should stop you cold. Nearly every young child operates at that level of creative genius. Fewer than one adult in 1,000 still does. Modern living slowly pulls the two halves out of sync, not because you sinned, but because the environment was never designed to protect the synchronization. The receiver does not break, it desynchronizes. Before I tell you what his team built, hear two people who walked this road. A woman from California described her life before as happening to her rather than with her. She had prayed, journaled, meditated, done every practice her community offered, and kept hitting the same wall, believing truths she could not feel. About 10 days in, she said something simply cleared, like a channel that had been blocked her whole adult life was suddenly open, and the presence she had only read about became something she could sense in an ordinary kitchen on an ordinary Tuesday. A man from Texas told it more bluntly. Years of carrying a family and a business on a mind he described as running through wet sand. Prayer felt like speaking into a wall. 2 weeks later, he woke up, and the fog he had stopped even noticing was gone. Decisions that used to take him a week were taking an afternoon, and he said the strangest part was how familiar it felt, like meeting a version of himself he had not seen since childhood. That is what happens when the receiver comes back online. And it is exactly what the team led by Dr. Barone spent years learning how to restore. They took over an hour of clinical-grade neural sync technology, the kind used in specialized settings to guide the two hemispheres back into their designed rhythm, and compressed it into an 8-minute targeted auditory sequence. 8 minutes a day, headphones on, eyes closed. That is the entire protocol. They call it the genius switch. Understand clearly what it is not. It is not one more sound frequency track like the ones scattered across the internet, and if you have tried those and felt nothing, that is precisely the point. Loose soundtracks address only a fraction of the picture. It is not a meditation app, and it does not require you to master any technique. It is a whole brain activation protocol built on the Sperry research line, engineered to do one thing: restore the synchronization you were born with, the one the modern world took without asking. The genius switch is not for everyone. It is for the chosen one who has done the inner work for years and suspects the last locked door was never spiritual at all. It is for the person who heard the receiver law tonight and felt something in their chest say, "That is it. That is the missing piece. If that is not you, let it pass in peace." But if you have been sincere for years while receiving at a fraction of depth, you are exactly who this was assembled for. His colleagues told him, A restoration like this would hold its value at $500, and when you price the alternatives, in person, neurofeedback runs about $300 an hour, and home systems run into thousands. That comparison is not marketing. It is arithmetic. It was released at $49, and today, through the page connected to this message, it is $39. On top of that, they include 4 gifts at no cost: a guided visualization from a top-rated creator on a leading calm and focus platform, a grocery guide exposing common foods that feed mental fog, and shortcuts that save real money every month, a manifestation classic more than a century old, and a beautifully designed print of the 5 habits that build an ideal future. And every dollar rests on an unconditional 100% money-back guarantee. Listen once or listen 80 times, and if it does not do for you what it has done for more than 18,000 people, all of it comes back to you. No conditions, no questions. If your first thought is that you have no margin for anything new, hear the honest answer. The protocol asks for 8 minutes, once a day. It runs while your eyes are closed, before the house wakes up, or after it goes quiet. There is no technique to learn, no journal to keep, nothing to perform. If 8 minutes cannot be found, the obstacle was never time, and you know it as well as I do. And if you are the cautious kind who has been burned by big claims before, good. Stay cautious. That is exactly what the guarantee is for. It moves the entire risk off your shoulders and onto theirs, where it belongs. And hear the loss framing plainly, because it belongs to everything this message has taught. What God has already placed near you becomes visible to a synchronized mind in a way it simply is not to a fogged one. The provision is not waiting to exist. It exists. The question is whether you arrive at the meeting point with the receiver online. 1. Caution. Because you deserve it. If you go searching video and music platforms for something with a similar name, you will find imitations. His team studied them, and most contained no neural sync technology at all, only the label. The mechanism is the difference, and the mechanism exists in one place. The verified page is linked in the description below and in the pinned comment, nowhere else. If your spirit resonates with what has been described, go there and read every detail for yourself before deciding anything. It is all laid out in the open. And let this be said with a clear voice. The tool does not replace God. It does not surrender for you. It does not obey for you, and it cannot love him for you. What he is doing in your life was never conditional on any instrument, but a restored receiver gives what he is doing more room to land at the depth it was sent with. The deeper current of this message is where we return now. Now I owe you the answer I planted at the halfway mark, and this is the summit of everything. I told you, the massive thing about to hit your life is not what you have assumed. You have pictured the money, the person, the platform, the vindication in front of everyone who doubted you. Those may well come, and I believe some of them are closer than you think, but none of them is the massive thing. Hear it plainly. The massive thing scheduled to hit your life is the restored version of you. Think it through with everything you now hold. An event, even a spectacular one, is spent the moment it lands on an unchanged person. But a restored receiver, a synchronized mind, a seated spirit that changes the yield of every single event that follows it for the rest of your life. The breakthrough you wanted was a harvest. What is coming is the farmer. Events feed you for a season. The restored you feeds every season after it. That is why heaven would not rush this. And that is why the instruction was never chase it. The instruction was sit down, because the massive thing does not arrive at an address. It arrives in a person, and the person had to be made ready to survive their own answer. And for the chosen one who felt something stir earlier when we spoke about the mind and its restoration, that door is still open in the description below. A small step, taken seated, but small steps taken from a clear mind have redirected entire generations. Now let me show you what the arrival actually looks like, because you have earned the sight of it. It is an ordinary morning, some months from now. You wake before the alarm, and the first thing you notice is what is missing. The dread, the static, the bracing. You make coffee in a quiet kitchen and realize you are actually there, in the room, tasting it, present in a way that used to take a vacation to approximate. The idea that arrives while you stand at the counter is not a fragment, it comes whole, with its own steps attached. And when the call comes that morning, the one that would have wrecked you a year ago, you hear yourself answer it with a steadiness that surprises even you. Nothing outside has changed yet. Everything inside has. That is, week one of the arrival. Then watch it compound. The work you produce from a synchronized mind starts carrying a different weight, and rooms notice, not because you promote yourself louder, but because clarity is rare and unmistakable. Provision stops hiding, or rather, you stop walking past it, and the opportunities that used to be invisible in the fog start standing out like lit windows at dusk. At home, the people you love get the restored version too. The patience is real now, not performed. Someone who has known you for years looks at you across an ordinary dinner and says, quietly, something is different about you, and you will know the day they say it, that you are standing inside the answer to every prayer you thought went unheard. And there is a second window I want you to look through, because the arrival was never only about you. Look further down the timeline. There is a version of your home where the atmosphere itself has changed, where your children or the young ones who watch you are growing up around a settled adult instead of a braced one, and are quietly learning that peace is normal. Whole brain researchers speak carefully about how one restored person influences the people closest to them, and scripture has said it plainly for millennia. A calmed and ordered life spills over. The cycle you feared you would pass down, the fog, the flinch, the striving, it stops at your seat. Years from now, someone in your line will walk through a door you never saw open, and they will not know your name was on the hinge. That is what massive actually means. And see one more scene, the quietest one. It is late evening, far into this new season. You are sitting again, but nothing about it resembles the waiting rooms of the old life. You are sitting the way David sat, in wonder, doing the arithmetic of grace, counting what came through the gate, and finding the count absurd. And you hear yourself say the sentence, every seated heir eventually says, it was never late, it was exact. Hold that sentence. You will need it between here and there. Hold that picture. Do not let it blur. In just a moment, I am going to do the most important thing in this entire message. I am going to speak a declaration over your life, the kind you do not talk over. And then we are going to seal this whole word shut so it cannot leak. Do not leave before the sealing. The ones who stay for the sealing are the ones the seal holds. And understand why this closing matters more than everything before it. Information you heard tonight will fade by Thursday. That is how minds work. But a sealed agreement, spoken and felt in the body, becomes a reference point you can return to when the storm tries to renegotiate. What we do in these next minutes is not a nice ending. It is the anchoring of everything the last hour built in you. So give it your full presence. No second screen, no half attention, just you, the seat, and the God who ordered it. But first, bring your body with us one last time, because agreements made only in the head do not survive the week. Sit the way we practiced. Spine settled, hands open, eyes closed, if it is safe to close them. Now build this image slowly. You are standing at the base of an enormous dam at first light, dry riverbed under your feet, years of accumulated water towering behind the wall, and set into the wall, there is a single gate, with your name cut into the stone. Watch the gate begin to move. Hear the first water come through, not as a flood over you, but as a river beside you, filling the dry bed, exactly within its banks, powerful and ordered at the same time. Now say inwardly, with the water moving, what was stored was never stolen. Say it again, slower. What was stored was never stolen. And, as you say it, notice what your chest does, the loosening behind the sternum, the breath that goes one level deeper than it has gone in months. That physical release is your anchor. Any day this season lies to you. Sit, breathe, and return to the gate with your name on it. The body remembers what the mind forgets. Now, stay seated, because everything in this message comes down to these final minutes, and I am not rushing them. Father, we are not leaving this moment the way we entered it, and we know it. Thank you, not first for what is coming, but for what was happening all along. For every year we misread as silence while the reservoir was rising, for every bench that turned out to be a seat, for every door that froze because our name was being cut into a better one. We see it now. We sat down blind tonight, and we are standing up seeing. And now, chosen one, whatever you have been gripping, this is where you set it down. Picture the weight you carried into this message, the stopwatch, the comparison, the bracing, the shame of the stalled years, all of it gathered into one stone in your hands. Feel its actual heaviness, how long you have carried it, how familiar it has become. Now open your hands. Let it fall. Hear it hit the ground behind you, not in front of you, behind you, where dropped things belong. You are not picking that up again. Your hands need to be empty for what is landing. Release the stopwatch, the one you have held over every promise, timing God like a delivery service. Release the comparison, every feed you scrolled that convinced you that you were behind people you were never assigned to race. Release the shame of the stalled years, all of it, the birthdays that hurt, the questions from relatives, the quiet humiliation of explaining a delay you did not choose. Release the bracing, the flinch at good news, the fear of the very breakthrough you prayed for, and release the old name you gave this season. It was never called forgotten. It was always called preparation. Feel how much lighter the chair is already. That lightness is not imagination. That is what a spirit feels like when it stops carrying what was never assigned to its hands. Now stand up on the inside and receive what is spoken, because this is not poetry, this is assignment. I am the one God told to sit down, and I sat, and that obedience is already counted. I am not late. I am stored. I am not benched. I am enthroned in training. I am not fragile. I am load-bearing, built for the weight of a massive answer. I am the seated heir, and what was accumulated through every year of my waiting is assigned to my name and cannot be reassigned. I am the structure the arrival lands on and does not break. I am ready, at the level of my mind, my body, and my spirit. And when it hits, I will not be swept away. I will be established. If you just received that as your own, declare it where the record can see it. Type "I am seated" for it in the comments, all of it, as a declaration, because a seated heir does not whisper his inheritance. And so it is. Sealed tonight, over your name, over your house, over your reservoir, until the gate opens. Stay just a moment longer in this stillness, because something is settling right now, and I do not want you to shake it loose by moving too fast. Some of you are feeling warmth across your chest or your hands. Some of you are feeling that specific quiet that follows a long cry, even though you did not cry. Some of you feel nothing dramatic at all, only a strange sense of order, like a room was straightened while your eyes were closed. All three are valid receipts. Heaven does not issue identical ones. What matters is that the transaction is done, the weight went down, the word went in, and the seal went on. Walk gently with yourself for the rest of tonight. Newly seated heirs should not be doing heavy lifting in the first hours. Before you go, 2 small assignments, neither of them for you. Somewhere in your world there is another chosen one who has been standing too long, striving too hard, bracing for the wrong thing. Someone whose plans keep freezing and who is quietly concluding they were forgotten. You know exactly who came to mind just now. Send them this message tonight, without a speech, just the words, "This found me, and it sounds like your season." You may be the courier for the biggest sit-down of their life. And if this word held you all the way to the end, gently press the like, not for me, but because it tells the machinery of this platform to carry the same water to the next thirsty person it can find. One last thing, and then I will let you go. Remember where we started. A parked car, the edge of a bed, a stillness you could not explain and a weight you could not name, and you, alone with it, wondering if you were losing your mind. You were not losing anything. You were being seated for something. That unnamed weight now has a name and a mechanism and a gate with your name on it, and you will never again mistake the pressure of nearness for the silence of abandonment. You came into this message as someone waiting for life to start. You are leaving it as someone the arrival is waiting on. So do the small things this week. Sit the 5 minutes, write the reservoir list, guard the rest. Keep the mouth of your plans closed and the hands of your spirit open. And when the first water comes through the gate, and it will, remember this night, and remember that you heard it seated. Go in peace, chosen one. The massive thing is closer than it has ever been, and for the first time, so are you. It is done.